Hi, Garrett.
Hello.
So, looks like you're claiming to be an INTP. Sounds pretty suspicious.
Yes. I don't know. It was claimed by you as well, so
I
I
know.
don't
I,
know
I,
what
I, I
bullshit it
actually,
is.
I actually remember you.
Oh.
Believe it or not. um, so, in the interim since that typing, which was quite a long time ago, I think, I know that I've sort of evolved my approach somewhat, and probably also you've evolved your understanding of cognitive function somewhat. What have you been thinking since I last spoke with you?
um well, as far as my type goes, like I don't really feel like I am always using TI, or like that I notice myself. Like I kind of just, and it seems like this is the stereotype for INTPs, that they're just like homebodies and they just like relax most of the time. Um,
And you don't feel that applies to you?
no, that applies to me for sure. But I'm just curious, like, if their first function is TI, um, how is that used? Does that imply that they're using it, or that they see everything through that? Um,
Well, yeah, I guess sort of it does imply that. But the thing is, I've never had a good intuitive grasp of how life is for somebody with a judging function first. It makes sense for me to I understand how using extroverted intuition as a default option when I encounter something in the world occurs because it doesn't mean it always occurs, right? It's just like it prompts some sort of like, oh, I wonder if meow, 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 or trying to think of jokes about it or whatever. So in that regard, it's kind of evocative of it. TI, only certain things are conducive to TI. You can build some new idea off of anything. You can't necessarily TI critique anything.
mhm.
So, like obviously, TI is not an appropriate thing for you to use when you are trying to lift a car over somebody who's been hit by a car. Lift the car off of them with your sudden burst of emergency strength.
Mhm. Yeah. But what about like just watching like a comedy? Would I mean, I guess you could analyze the jokes and stuff, but what
Well,
if you're just sort of like mindlessly consuming content?
I mean,
Because that's what I do most of the time.
the thing is, it's it's SI gratifying to consume a bunch of content on some level because you're accumulating this library of stuff that you've seen and experienced, right? It's also probably NI gratifying to watch this stuff if it's good media, you know. But
Hmm.
it depends how you approach the media watching or consuming experience. So, talk to me about what you consume and how you consume it and what goes on in your head as you're consuming it.
Um, I do watch some political stuff, but I also watch just like YouTube comedy, which is like reacting to other stuff, just people like making jokes about Reddit or whatever. And I watch Twitch streams, which are just people playing video games.
I mean, I would suspect that links to it's kind of a surrogate for FE.
Hmm.
You know, I like to watch some of those things too. You know, where I like to watch the end of upsets in sports games and watch the team celebrating and get some sort of FE satisfaction from that. I watch quite a bit of media as well. It's not like just because you're a deliberator means that you aren't going to ever be in a receiving mode. Being a deliberator is also being an epistemologist, just like a receiver. And even as an action type, there are plenty of times when my SI takes over and says, okay, you're tired, you need to go into receive mode. So I've been watching anime for like God knows how long now, like 6 months straight, just watching nonstop anime. It seems like every day, watching hours and hours and hours of it. Is that consistent with my cognitive function type? Well, yeah. In other words, it's consistent with my personality type to tweak out on shit, whatever it is. Like, I got really into that, and so I was really into it. And it's a lot more like reading a book than it was like watching a regular show because of the subtitles. So I don't think that I think in general we run a big problem when we try to say I do or don't appear to match this type description, unless we're talking about either apparently conflicting values or apparently conflicting processes.
Mm. Yeah. Do you think tweaking out on shit is like an SI thing? Like if you have SI, you like to watch the same things or the same type of things over and over again?
I mean, I think it's a backslot SE thing. So
Okay.
tweaking out on shit means we don't want to be responsible for paying any attention to our extroverted sensing. Because we don't want to be making decisions about what we're doing. Like, when I'm saying tweaking out on something, it means I'm doing what I naturally found myself feeling like doing without making any decisions, without having any willful control over things.
Yeah.
SE PoLR has the least ability to willfully exercise SE, and so it's natural that, because SE is when you decide the thing you're going to do instead, get up and then do it. But the problem is for an INTP or an INFP, with their tool function extroverted intuition, they've never done deliberating it out as to what exactly it is they want to decide. So the actual decision has to come before the follow through and execution, and it's why INFPs, INTPs, and to a much lesser extent, I think even INFJs are prone to failure to launch syndrome, as they say.
Mm. So, do you mean like SE is doing the hard thing in a sense, or?
I mean, SE is doing the easiest thing from some people's perspective. So, extroverted intuition and introverted thinking deal with the world in terms of conditionalities and possibilities and such. And so, what happens is we're accustomed to saying, well, if we were going to do this, we just need to do meow, 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 and then it would be done. And then as far as we're concerned, our work there is finished. We've ideated out the process from beginning to end. If we decide, for some reason, to actually attempt this particular instance of a process that needs to be done and followed through on, then we determine that it's actually each of the steps that we just said, well, first we just got to meow. It's actually a big fucking hassle. And then we just got to mew. Well, that's actually a big fucking hassle too. But when we talk about it and think about it, we go, well, these are the boxes that need to be checked off on the checklist, and we don't spend a lot of time thinking about the reality of the experience of it and how torturous it might be to actually execute. But the thing is, ENTPs get themselves caught, stuck doing things they wish they weren't doing, whereas INTPs don't make that mistake. They avoid starting doing those things in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Would you say, what types would you say are more likely to have like an internal dialogue?
All right, so this is something that I've heard brought up fairly recently for the first time, and I think it originates maybe with Sean O'Neill. I I would expect everybody to have an internal dialogue, except for possibly ESFPs,
Hmm.
because they're just that far removed from language. But I mean, certainly NTPs. I know my internal dialogue is the same as my external dialogue. Basically, it's a little shortcutter. There's shortcuts inside my head. In other words, I don't talk out all the words, but I talk down a little bit of an idea nub, and then I got the idea, and I just go with that. But I suspect that probably NTPs have the most robust, ongoing, chatty internal dialogue.
Hmm.
I know inside my head I never shut up.
Yeah, I think like when I'm healthier, I have more of an internal dialogue. Or that like I have less like restraint in my head, or less like anxiety, and that allows me to form more complete thoughts in my head.
Do you feel like you're not in a healthy place right now?
Um, Relatively, I mean, it's like medium place right now.
I mean, the thing is, what I believe in general INTPs need is INTPs need this too, but INTPs really need it is basically a manager.
Hmm.
You know, because INTPs do have plenty of power in terms of capacity to accomplish impressive things, but they don't they countervalue a singular vision, so that makes it even more difficult for them to settle into and devote themselves to a project than it does for ENTP.
Hmm.
What about your FI? How's your FI doing?
Um, what does that mean exactly?
I guess what I'm saying is, are you noticing yourself to be more prone to emotionalism, or are you noticing that the normal amount of emotionalism is more negative than usual, or is that not something you really pay much attention to because it's backslot?
Mm, well, I have like some mental illness issues, and that causes me to have like intrusive thinking, and those are connected to like really intense emotions sometimes, like negative ones, and I have to like restrain myself from like feeding into that emotion. And
Catastrophizing.
yeah, kind of.
You know, the thing is, sometimes people just need a change of scenery too. It's like Rachel was feeling kind of squirrely a few days ago, and she rented herself a room at the long-term stay place for a couple of nights. And you know, at first it was a little like scary because, wait, are we fighting or something? But no, she can sort of keep track of her own mental state of being, and she felt she needed a couple of days of recouping. Change of pace, and also making sure, and being in your own space can help. Like, I don't know how much ownership you have over your space.
Mm. Um, Something that helps me a lot is meditation. Like whenever I meditate and exercise as well. If I both meditate and exercise, I don't really have those intrusive thoughts. Um,
Yeah, exercise is good. I
but
find
then again, I have polar SE, so
right, yeah,
it's hard to do.
it is hard. Exercise. I always feel a lot better when I get some exercise, but it doesn't mean I go out and regularly get it. In fact, I very irregularly get it. So it does clear the head. You know, NTPs have a tendency to sit in front of their computers all day. NFJs do too, I suppose. INFJs anyway. Like I've been thinking how I really need to get a taller chair because this chair is not tall enough and my ankles end up swelling up, you know. I sit here for a long time. So, what do you think in terms of using your understanding of typology and cognitive functions in either understanding yourself or in addressing difficulties, or is it just another complication intellectually that gets in the way of actually accomplishing things?
Do I think it is a complication that gets in the way of accomplishing things? Or is that the question?
Yeah, basically, cognitive functions. Do you think it's net positive for you or net negative?
Well, I don't really use it that much in my day-to-day life. I just kind of learn stuff online about it when I feel like it, and that provides me some enjoyment. So I'd say it's a net positive.
So you don't really use it for self-analysis that much?
Yeah, not really.
It makes sense if we're looking at 6-slot NI. Okay, so I'd like to ask you some expert intuition questions because I just put up a video with an ISFP, and it would be nice to get another sort of set of examples of how questions can be answered potentially. Did you watch that video?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. So maybe I could ask you the same questions I asked him, and then we'll get exact comparison.
All right.
All right. So the first thing is I'm going to give you 3 words to do word association with. And first up, we're going to do NI word association, then SI word association, then I'm going to play any word association. Okay. NI word association is the way that it is in a psychologist's office. I say ocean, you say seabird, you know, or whatever comes to mind. Okay. So your first word is flashlight.
Lotion. I already had that in my head. I don't know why.
Luncheon? Okay, fine. Running back.
Quarterback.
And the third one is little stream.
Water.
Okay. Now, can you do an SI link for each of those? So, you know what I mean by that?
No.
Well, flashlight makes me think of how last night or the other night, most nights I have to go outside and look in the bushes and see what's rustling around with the flashlight because it's a possum or a raccoon or something out there. That's a reference of me using a flashlight in my own life as opposed to what it draws to mind in general.
Okay, but not like your emotion about that. So like, couldn't that also be FI?
Well, I mean, if you said, oh, you want me to do an SI thing on flashlight? Okay. I love my flashlight so much. It is the best flashlight. That was
So a memory. It has to be a memory.
Yeah, you're linking back to something, to some specific event that featured a flashlight in your own life from some time, from yesterday to when you were born.
Okay. All right. Flashlight. Okay. I used to have this flashlight that was like you crank it and it lights. That's how you power the flashlight.
An emergency flashlight, those are called.
Yeah.
You don't even need batteries.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just need your own strength.
Do you have an SI link to a running back?
One time I was playing football in middle school, and I was a lineman, and we were doing like drills where you tackle, and I like decked somebody when I had the ball, and they were like, "You might play running back or something," and then everybody went after me and made me fumble, so that never came up again.
Okay. And then the third one is little stream.
I've been playing a song by a stream recently on my guitar.
A song by a stream?
Yeah, like next to the stream.
Oh, I see. So you've been playing it beside the stream. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now we're going to play NE word association. So we don't even have to start with these words. I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to come up with a word that's as conceptually far away from the word I give you as you can manage. So note, night is not conceptually far away from day. It's just the opposite of it, right? We're looking for conceptual distance. It's kind of a difficult thing to define. But anyway, you start with a word, any word, and I'll demonstrate.
Yoga mat.
Okay. Parsimony.
Okay. So what if I said parsimony? Could you say yoga mat?
No, because you're trying to come up with a word that's conceptually unrelated to the thing. It's very difficult to find an NI link, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to find an NI link between parsimony and yoga mat.
But I feel like if you could just use words like parsimony, or words that are more like if someone says a thing related word, you could just say like a.
But if I said harmony, that would be too clear of a link. See, I'm trying to test how I agree with you, right? The challenge is to factor in as many considerations as possible to make it as difficult conceptually to link as possible. So
Okay.
harmony would have linked much better with yoga mat than parsimony.
Yeah, because it's like spiritual stuff, right? Is that why?
I guess, yeah. Okay, so how about if I tell you a word, commonplace?
Foot.
Okay. Foot.
It is kind of so, but would it be an opposite or like I don't know? Would you say?
I mean, the thing is, foot is an example of something that's commonplace. So
Yeah,
I would say it's not a very divergent answer.
you have to think a little bit about it.
Yeah, you do have to
Not-
think a little bit about it.
Okay.
Like if I was going to diverge from foot, I have to go something like let's say malaise. An undefined sort of meowness is pretty conceptually far from foot. Although foot has a negative bottom quality to it, so it's not exactly the furthest thing imaginable.
Hmm.
Like one way you can understand NE and NI in general is, it's like why did the chicken cross the road? How many different punchlines can you come up with, whether or not they're funny or not? To get to the other side is the standard answer. What are some other possible answers you might give?
Do they have to be like nonsensical, or I would say to fulfill his destiny?
Okay, yeah. There's lots of possible answers, right? Because they needed a third chicken to screw in a light bulb on the other side of the street.
That's like part of another sort of joke thing.
Because the man, the rabbi, and the priest had already walked into the bar. Because Andy Rooney was standing across the street, and the chicken was a huge Andy Rooney fan. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because he had Dave Matthews Band tickets, of course. Okay, so let me ask you to do some inky pinky stuff that the last person really had a lot of difficulty. Are you familiar with the kind of question, right? Inky pinkies.
Yeah.
Okay, can you make a couple up for me? That's just something that the last person, the ICP, really was completely unable to do, is to generate inky pinkies. They can solve some of them occasionally.
I find that easier than guessing them.
All right, well, demonstrate. Make a couple up.
So this is a footwear that is a nutrient absorber. Nutrient absorbing footwear.
A boot root?
Yeah.
Good. Go.
Another one?
Yeah. You got to see a certain amount of quantity to contrast.
This is a strange facial hair.
A weird beard.
Yeah. This is a humorous bee juice.
Funny honey.
Hmm.
Make a hard one.
Okay. This is a person who is both likes to argue and is overbearing.
Okay. A frantic pedantic?
That works, but it was different.
Okay, let's see if I can come up with another one.
Overbearing and likes to argue.
Okay.
Or they like control and they like to argue.
Okay. I don't know. What do you got?
Totalitarian, contrarian.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. And a fair set of clues. I just didn't get it. And as requested, you provided me one of significantly more challenge. So, of course, the thing is, for somebody watching this video, they might think, well, he's not very talkative at all. He's not very extrovertedly intuitive. But that's why you got to push on these processes. Can you imagine somebody typing you from a video alone and just going, well, based on your affect, you're a meow. Because you're not going to get any answers. So let's reconfirm some TI stuff as well. Just see if you demonstrate what I would expect to see from an INTP, which is a great deal of capacity to handle the genealogy questions because they have a combination TI-SI thing going on. Let's just test one out.
Okay.
Who is my sisters, mothers, only sisters, husbands, only sons, only cousins, father's father in relation to me?
Grandfather.
Yeah. Okay. Now, let me ask you another kind of TI question. Alright. if it is the case that if P then Q, then R, and either if P or Q, if P then Q or R, what can we conclude?
Sorry, I didn't understand that one.
I'll repeat it again. If it is the case that if P and Q, then R, and either if P then Q or R, what can we conclude?
So we can conclude that either we can't conclude anything in the case of R, and in the case of if then P then Q, so we can conclude that if there is P, then there is also R. But we can't conclude that if there's R, then there's P, because R could appear in a case of not being P.
But there's definitely R, actually, because you have, if it is the case that if P then Q, then R, and you have either if P then Q or R. If you have if P then Q, then you have R by virtue of the conditional.
I thought you said P and Q then R.
No, I said if it is the case that if P then Q, then R, and if P then Q and R.
I thought you said if P and Q then R.
No, I didn't say that, but that's fine. Let me try another one. That it's natural for you to be confused in that instance if you misunderstood what I said. Okay, so how about it is not the case that Mary and Todd will attend the concert if and only if Joe goes. And it is the case that Joe will go to the concert if and only if Mary and Bob go. It is not the case that if and only if Mary and Bob go to the concert, then Joe will go. And it is the case that if and only if Mary and Joe go to the concert, then Joe will go only if Mary and Joe go to the concert. I mean, that, let me start this over. Sorry, I'm messing this up. It is not the case that if and only if A, then B. And it is the case that C, if and only if A and B. What can we conclude?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, it is not the case that A, if and only if B. And it is the case that C, if and only if A and B. What can we conclude? I'll say it a third time. It is not the case that A, if and only if B. And it is the case that C, if and only if A and B. What can we conclude? I don't know the answer to it, by the way. Just so you're aware, I don't know what the answer is. It's an interesting problem. I have to think it through.
I don't know the meaning clearly of if and only if.
It's just a biconditional. So it's an if then that goes both directions.
So you said it's not the case that A, if and only if B. That was the first one, right?
Right.
So, so if there's a B, it's not the case that there will be A. But does that mean that if there is a B, then there won't be an A? Like there.
I'm actually not sure what you can do with this. I'm going to figure it out right now. But if we go like, look, A, if and only if B, and that is not the case that A, if and only if B. Okay, this is not the case that A, if and only if B. We can convert A, if and only if B into it is not the case that if A, then B, and if B, then A. Okay, so that's how you convert that biconditional into two conditionals. I need another parentheses at the end, like that. And then what you have here is you use De Morgan's theorem, and so you end up with this: either it is not the case that A, if then B, or it is not the case that B, if then A. Like that. Which haven't even gotten to C yet. But then you can use material implication on these conditionals. So material implication says A or not B. Wait, is that right? A or not B. And then this one is going to be B or not A. And then we still have the negations in front of them. So you're at this now. Is not the case that A or not B, or is not the case that B or not A. And then from there, use De Morgan's again, and you get not A and B, or not B and A. And then I forget what the rest of the problem was, but that's as far as I can go with those biconditionals. I can get them down to that. But I forgot what the rest of the problem is. I don't know what the answer was. But
so is it possible to have B and A is the question, because the other part was if B and A then C. So we can either conclude not C or...
Oh, if B and A then... Yeah, it's not possible to have B and A because you either have not A and B or you have not B and A. So the answer would be not C, I guess. No, you cannot derive C, I guess, is the answer. Well, you're obviously TI. You're obviously NE. Have you ever had any doubts about your typing as an INTP?
Yeah. I've thought like all sorts of stuff, but when I first took the test, like the little 16 personalities test, I would get T and F 50-50 every time. So I was between INFP and INTP. But I don't really feel like an INFP.
No, I don't. You're not an INFP, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you do feel nevertheless more emo than an ENTP.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah, ENTPs don't really care. Like,
I mean, the thing, yeah, well, just the emotions don't stick with us for very long. I do feel sad sometimes, but it usually doesn't last very long. So what would you, what else, what would you like to get out of this conversation that we haven't addressed so far?
Um, well, I one thing I wanted to address was like those were some hard TI questions. Um, and I had thought before that like those types of questions were much easier than genealogy because like, but I've kind of gotten the hang of genealogy, but at first it wasn't really my style because I don't like process things very well.
I mean, what are you comparing against?
Um, well, I'm kind of like slow. Like I always finish things last, or like growing up, I would always finish the test last. But I would score well, but like yeah, and I kind of like appear like kind of just
Okay, but
talk slowly.
what just happened with that thing right there is you were able to articulate the the key TI point that we were trying to get to, which is, do you have C? And if you do, you need to have both A and B. And in fact, I had established that you can't have both A and B, so it must be invalid. You can't get C. I had forgotten what even the point was. You had kept the whole TI frame of reference in mind, and it's like that. It's sort of inherent understanding the mechanics of it. If you watch any other typing sessions with people who aren't TI DOMs or TI Tool, they have a very different relationship with these kind of things. It's even the ones who are pretty good and aspirational. It's not a conversation between equals at the thing, right?
Hmm.
Like even between us, I feel as though really you have better clarity about the whole thing than I do. Even though I'm the logic teacher, I'm way more practiced at it. But the point is, like, you could keep in mind what we were doing with that logic proof, even though you aren't familiar with the formal theorems and stuff. So that's definitely the idea that you're not NETI. It just seems impossible to me. Granted, you're quiet. I mean, you don't talk fast, right?
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
you probably could if you wanted to.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I have like some like restraints, like emotional restraint or something, or I'm just not like on top of my game or whatever. But I've always been like a slow person. Like people perceive me as slow or just like chill.
I mean, I don't think they perceived you as slow intellectually, have they?
Um, I mean, people would always be surprised when I would score highly on tests. They'd be like, "This guy really? Like, he seems kind of stupid."
Well, I mean, that's the inherent problem of every introvert is introverts get underestimated, extroverts get overestimated.
Yeah, I guess it's better to be underestimated. What I would say.
So what do you got in the works right now? You got plans for life? You got you sound like you're kind of kicking yourself for being a slacker, but I mean, kicking yourself for being a slacker is part and parcel with being a real intuitive, with the possible exceptions of ENFJs and ENTJs.
Hmm. Um. Yeah, I'm doing school, so I've got that going. I'm like pretty much everything's like figured out right now, as long as I just keep up with school. But like, I guess I could be more on top of exercise and meditation. That's the only thing.
Well, as far as school goes, it's really important for you to school because everything that happens there is incredibly educational.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff are you taking?
I'm taking chemistry and a very educational professional development class.
At least chemistry's a real class.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to take it. I got a D in chemistry in high school, I think. I hated chemistry so much. Do you like it?
Yeah, I like. It's kind of like weird because it's like math, but it's like little patterns. It's not, but like the beginning of chemistry is kind of annoying because it's just like doing conversions of like units and stuff.
Mm,
But once you get to like molecular structures, it's kind of cool.
I see. Are you in chemistry because you plan to manufacture drugs someday? Illegal drugs?
Um,
Oops. What I thought was a joke is your actual plan. My bad. That's a great major then. You know.
yeah, I'm a neuroscience major.
It's good. You got to learn how drugs impact the brain. You know. I want, you know what you can do once you've got all your neuroscience degrees done, and you can put together the definitive, what's that scale called for hot stuff? The Flogel scale or something for spicy stuff.
Not Scoville.
Scoville scale. You put that together for highness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's
That's something I always wished existed when I was in high school. It's like a way to measure highness. Like, um,
it's got at least two dimensions, maybe three.
yeah, it's possibly more. It possibly breaks the laws of physics.
I think there's front brain highness and back brain highness. Now, front brain highness is only there for a minute or two after you pull your bowl. When you sort of settle into back brain highness. And as you smoke more and more weed over the course of your life, you get less front brain highness and more back brain highness. This is all medically proven by lots of studies. Not really. It's just how I feel about it with my emotions. Hey, Garrett, do you know that I use my emotions to feel things? You should try that.
Okay. I was using them to support my worldview.
Oh. You're supposed to use them to say things like, "Oh my gosh, I love that movie!" Like that. That's what emotions are for. Or for animals, if you have a cat or something. Do you have a cat?
No,
Do
but I want one.
you have a dog?
Yeah.
Do you sing the dog's praises every time it enters the room?
No.
That's
Not their praises, but I might say like buddy or skip. Or just say like, hello, good to see you.
That's good. At least you're not rude. Rachel and I are always very sure to speak very politely to the cat. You know, because my dad body shamed the cat the other day.
Wow.
Yeah. He told her she's getting fat.
That's something a lot of people do to cats.
Well, you know, our cat is not even getting fat. She just represents the new beauty standard, which is a little bit more curvy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Curvy cats are in vogue.
Yeah. So, what other thoughts do you have? Any last questions? Any questions, comments? Additional notations, insights you've had you'd like to share with the viewing audience?
TI or conditional logic is much more complicated than I thought it was, or than I had imagined.
It's actually much less complicated than you now imagine it to be. But it's just conversions. It's just rules of replacement or rules of inference. So it's like the rules of inference are tautological. The rules of replacement are definitional, tautological too, basically. So you just gotta learn a few rules, and all of a sudden it's easy squeezy. But that's for people with TI high up. People who have TI low down have a hell of a hard time learning it. I mean, top logic, I can tell you that the range of speed at which people can pick it up varies ginormously. Like, some students are just like, you are totally speaking Greek to me, and other students are like, well, of course not, Q.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good proof of the fact that something's going on personality-wise there. It's not just, oh gosh, some child are being left behind. It must be the failure of our education system. You know, it's like, no, they obviously think differently.
Yeah. I was not gonna lie, I was getting like really adrenaline pumping and like nervous when you were asking me those, because I really wanted to prove that I had TI. And that was messing with my thought process. That's why I like paused so long.
I mean, the funny thing is, there's nothing that you said or responded in any way, shape, or form that was anything other than consistent with TI Dom. But the fact that we can have a conversation about that thing and be working together to keep track of the problem and stuff is, I mean, that's not something that, not, you know, the vast majority of people I type, I'm familiar with the relationship between me, them, and logic, which is, having been a logic teacher, I recognize this person has mana capability of it, and I'm going to be asking questions and knowing things about how they're answering them that I'm not going to be informing them about necessarily, because they won't understand those things either. Whereas with you, it was obvious that you're trying to ideate out the logic according to the inherent logic of it. The thing is, that last question I asked, I didn't know the answer either. I suspected that when I sort of like intuited that if we apply material implication to both of the conditionals and the whole thing's negated, that there'd be a De Morgan's thing, but I wasn't sure how it was going to actually play out until I worked it out. So that's not a question I would even ask somebody ever, unless I'm already confident they're a TI Dom. You killed it on the first genealogy question, but I could ask you a million simple ones like syllogisms, you get them all right.
Yeah. It's like, for me, it's hard to like ask things that I don't understand. So maybe that's like an ENTP versus INTP thing, is like being able to just parse shit together and like be like, yeah, and then it makes sense.
Well, I'm not afraid of asking a question that falls apart, because I don't know where I'm going. You know, like I was asking somebody the other day, okay, you're on one side of a river, you got to go to the other side of the river, you've got a bear, you've got a honey, and you've got a bear hunter, and you don't want the bear to get shot by the bear hunter, but if you go on the boat with the bear hunter by yourself, he'll molest you. But if you have the honey in front of you, because he'll reach in front of you to try to get the honey and he'll grab you. And the thing is, I had no idea if there was like, well, what's the solution here? The solution I ended up saying was, we're supposed to give the boat to the bear. You know, it's like, there's no problem there. That's not a question you're asking. You're just hoping to happen upon a question on the way as you're walking along, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you do, most of the time you don't. If you do give the boat to the bear, though, it does resolve the problem, I concluded. If the bear's willing to go on the boat and sail downstream. Now, I don't know if he's a boating enthusiast. Most bears aren't.
Most,
yeah.
not all.
So, I guess that's going to wrap it up.
All right.
All right, cool. Nice chatting with you, Garrett. And are you cool with me publishing this?
Yeah, I'm totally stoked for it.
All right. It'll go up this evening.
All right.
All right,
Sounds
cool.
good.
Later days.
Bye.